In 2019, a team of geneticists published a study that sent shockwaves through the academic world. They had analyzed ancient DNA from Bronze Age burial sites across the Iberian Peninsula, and what they found was so disturbing that several Spanish historians initially refused to accept it. Between 2500 and 2000 BC, 100% of the local male lineages in what is now Spain simply vanished. Not declined, not mixed, vanished. Every single paternal bloodline that had existed for thousands of years was replaced by a single incoming group in less than 4 centuries. This wasn't gradual migration, this wasn't peaceful intermingling, this was something far more violent, and the evidence is still written in Spanish DNA today. Spain, the land of flamenco, bullfighting, and Mediterranean sunshine. We think we know this country. We imagine dark-haired, olive-skinned descendants of Romans mixed with Moorish invaders, speaking a Latin language under an Iberian sun. But DNA tells a completely different story. A story of ghost populations, brutal replacements, and a genetic map so strange that a person in southern Spain can be more closely related to someone 1,000 miles north than to their next-door neighbor. This is the Spanish DNA paradox, and understanding it means unraveling one of the most violent chapters in European prehistory. To understand what Spain became, we need to start with who was there first. Around 7,000 years ago, long before Spain had a name, the Iberian Peninsula was home to the Western hunter-gatherers. We know them best from a skeleton found in a cave in northwest Spain called La Braña. When scientists reconstructed this man's appearance using his DNA, they discovered something that shattered our assumptions about ancient Europeans. He had dark brown skin, almost black hair, and piercing blue eyes. This combination seems impossible to us now, but it was the standard look for Europeans at the time. Dark skin was an adaptation his ancestors carried from Africa. Blue eyes were a mutation that appeared in Europe during the Ice Age. The pale skin we associate with Europeans today didn't exist yet. These hunter-gatherers lived in small bands, moving with the seasons, hunting deer and wild boar, gathering nuts and shellfish along the coast. They had survived the Ice Age, adapted to the warming climate, and called this land home for thousands of years. Their Y chromosome haplogroups were mainly I2 and a bit of C1. Remember these markers, they're about to disappear. Around 5500 BC, everything changed. Farmers arrived from Anatolia, modern-day Turkey. They brought wheat, barley, sheep, goats, and a completely different way of life. They also brought different DNA. These Anatolian farmers had lighter skin than the hunters, brown eyes, and dark hair. They carried Y chromosome haplogroup G2. But here's what's important. The transition was relatively peaceful. The hunters didn't vanish. Instead, over the next 2,000 years, these two groups slowly mixed. Archaeological evidence shows hybrid settlements where hunter-gatherer tools appear alongside farming implements. By 3000 BC, Spain was a genetic blend. Maternal lineages showed the mixing clearly. The population had become what we might recognize as Mediterranean, with olive skin, dark hair, and brown eyes. Different communities existed across the peninsula, but they were all descended from this fusion of original hunters and incoming farmers. Spain was diverse, but stable. And then came the year the men vanished. Around 2500 BC, a new people appeared in Spain. They came from the Pontic-Caspian steppe, the vast grasslands north of the Black Sea. These were the Yamnaya culture, and in Western Europe they're associated with the bell-beaker phenomenon. They brought horses, wheels, bronze weapons, and a social structure built on male dominance and warfare. They also brought a Y chromosome marker called R1b. Today, R1b is the most common paternal lineage in Western Europe. In Spain, it reaches 70%. In the Basque country, over 85%. But before 2500 BC, R1b didn't exist in Spain at all. The 2019 study, led by researchers from Harvard and the Max Planck Institute, analyzed DNA from over 400 ancient skeletons. What they found was unprecedented in the genetic history of Europe. Before 2500 BC, Spanish men carried haplogroups I2 and G2. By 2000 BC, just 400 years later, those lineages had dropped to 0 in many regions and below 5% everywhere else. They had been completely replaced by R1b. Think about what this means. Entire male lineages, families that had survived in Spain for thousands of years, left no descendants. None. Their daughters may have survived. The maternal DNA shows significant continuity through mitochondrial haplogroups H, U, and K. But their sons? Gone. This wasn't a plague. Diseases don't target only men. This wasn't climate change. Droughts don't eliminate Y chromosomes. This was systematic reproductive replacement. The steppe men arrived with superior weapons, horses, and a culture of raiding. They took local women as wives. The local men were killed, expelled, or prevented from reproducing. Within just 10 to 15 generations, the genetic landscape of Spain was utterly transformed. The technical term is sex-biased admixture. The blunt term is conquest. But here's what makes Spain unique. After the initial steppe invasion, after the bronze weapons and horses and violence settled into a new normal, Spain didn't become one uniform culture. Instead, around 1000 BC, it split into two completely different worlds. The west and north became Celtic, the east and south became Iberian, and this division would shape Spanish genetics for the next 3,000 years. The Celtic West, covering modern Galicia, Asturias, and Portugal, developed a culture that had more in common with Ireland and Britain than with the rest of Spain. They built circular stone forts called castros. They played bagpipes. They shared artistic styles and religious practices with the Atlantic coast communities to the north. Genetically, they remained more purely steppe-derived. Modern Galicians often cluster genetically closer to the Irish than to Valencians. This is the Atlantic facade, a genetic and cultural corridor that runs from Scotland to Portugal, bypassing the Mediterranean entirely. The Iberian east and south, covering Catalonia, Valencia, Murcia, and Andalusia, developed a completely different culture. They traded extensively with Phoenicians and Greeks. They built rectangular houses. They developed their own writing system, which we still can't fully decipher despite having hundreds of inscriptions. Genetically, they showed more continuity with the pre-steppe Neolithic farmers, suggesting that in these regions, the incoming steppe groups mixed more thoroughly with the existing population rather than completely replacing them. This split is still visible in modern DNA. A genetic study from 2008 analyzing thousands of Spaniards found clear clustering. Galicians, Asturians, and Basques form one cluster. Catalans, Valencians, and Andalusians form another. The Pyrenees didn't divide Spain. The invisible line between Celtic and Iberian culture did. Spain was two countries long before it became one kingdom. But then there are the Basques. The Basques are famous for being Europe's genetic mystery. They speak Euskara, a language unrelated to any other on Earth. Not Indo-European, not Semitic, not anything we can classify. It's a linguistic island, and for decades people assumed this meant the Basques were a genetic island too, the last survivors of pre-Indo-European Europe. The DNA tells a more complicated story. Yes, Basques show the strongest genetic continuity with Neolithic farmers. They have the highest frequency of certain maternal lineages that date back to the first farmers, but their paternal DNA, over 85% R1b. That's higher than anywhere else in Spain, higher than anywhere else in Europe except Ireland. The Basques carry more of the steppe invader Y chromosome than anyone. So how can they be both the most ancient and the most invaded? The answer is isolation. The Basques didn't avoid the steppe invasion. They were conquered like everyone else, but after that conquest, they refused to mix with anyone else. When the Romans came, the Basques didn't intermarry. When the Visigoths came, the Basques didn't intermarry. When the Moors came, the Basques didn't intermarry. They preserved their language, their culture, and their Neolithic maternal lineages by creating an endogamous society. They are the descendants of the steppe conquerors who stopped conquering and started isolating. But the Basque region holds another mystery, one that shows how isolation creates not just genetic but social castes. For over 700 years, a group called the Cagots lived in the Pyrenees, particularly in Navarre and southwestern France. They were treated like untouchables. They had to use separate doors in churches marked with carvings so they wouldn't contaminate the main entrance. They couldn't touch food in markets without buying it. They couldn't marry outside their group. They were forbidden from most professions. Local rumors claimed they were lepers, or failed Moors, or descendants of Visigoths, or cursed Cathar heretics. Every region had a different story, but the hatred was universal. In 2004, genetic testing was finally conducted on individuals descended from known Cagot families. The result? They were genetically indistinguishable from their neighbors. There was no unique disease, no foreign ancestry, no physical marker that justified 7 centuries of persecution. The Cagots were a social caste created purely from superstition, maintained by fear, and dissolved only in the 20th century when the last legal restrictions were finally removed. It's a chilling reminder that DNA doesn't determine destiny. Culture does. The Roman Empire changed everything and nothing. Latin replaced the Celtic and Iberian languages. Roman law replaced tribal customs. Roman religion replaced local gods. But Roman DNA barely touched Spain. Studies analyzing the genetic impact of Roman colonization found that it contributed less than 2% to the modern Spanish gene pool. Why? Because Rome sent soldiers and administrators, not settlers. Most of those soldiers weren't even from Rome. They were recruited from Gaul, Germania, North Africa, wherever the legions needed bodies. When they retired, they married local women. Their children grew up speaking Latin but carrying the same genetic legacy as everyone else. The Visigoths, the so-called barbarian conquerors who ruled Spain from 418 to 711 AD, left even less. Genetic studies have found that Germanic DNA in Spain averages between 0% and 5%, most of it concentrated in the northeast near the Pyrenees. The Visigoths were a warrior elite, maybe 200,000 people ruling over 6 million. They didn't settle as farmers. They took tribute and married into the existing Roman Hispanic elite. Within 3 generations, they were speaking Latin and following Roman customs. The blonde, blue-eyed Spaniard occasionally seen in the north isn't a Visigoth. They're usually someone who inherited a recessive Neolithic variant. The Visigoths came, ruled, and genetically vanished. But surely the Moors, who controlled Spain for 700 years, must have left a massive genetic legacy. After all, Al-Andalus was one of the most advanced civilizations in medieval Europe. Cordoba was larger than Paris. Granada's Alhambra remains one of the world's architectural wonders. The Moors introduced advanced irrigation, mathematics, medicine, astronomy. Spanish is filled with Arabic words. Here's where the paradox deepens. North African DNA in modern Spain averages around 5%. That's less than the Germanic contribution, and the Visigoths only ruled for 300 years. But the distribution is even stranger. The highest concentrations of North African DNA aren't in Andalusia, the heart of Al-Andalus. They're in Galicia, the northwest corner that was the first region reconquered and remained Christian the longest. To understand this paradox, you need to visualize Spain not as a horizontal map, but as a vertical one. During the Reconquista, the Christian kingdoms in the north, Galicia, Leon, Castile, and Aragon, didn't push south as a unified front. Each kingdom expanded downward in its own lane, like fingers reaching down the peninsula. As they conquered territory, they settled it with people from their own regions. Galicians moved south into Extremadura, Castilians moved south into La Mancha, Catalans moved south into Valencia. Each wave of settlers brought their own genetic signature with them. This created vertical genetic stripes running north to south. A person in Almeria, in the far southeast, is genetically closer to someone in Catalonia, 500 miles to the north, than they are to someone in Malaga, just 100 miles west. Because Almeria was reconquered by Catalans moving south, while Malaga was reconquered by Galicians moving south. Geography says they're neighbors. DNA says they're from different genetic provinces. So where did the North African DNA end up? Mostly in the west. Why? Because during the final expulsion of the Moriscos in 1609, many fled to the mountains of Galicia and Portugal, where enforcement was weakest. Others were deliberately resettled there by Christian authorities who wanted to depopulate the strategic southern borders. The people most associated with Moorish culture in the popular imagination, Andalusians, carry the least Moorish DNA. The people least associated with Moorish culture, Galicians, carry the most. The vertical map explains everything. But there's another hidden ancestry in Spain, one that was systematically erased from records but preserved in DNA. In 1492, the same year Columbus reached America, the Catholic monarchs issued the Alhambra Decree. All Jews had to convert to Christianity or leave Spain. Official records say that most left. The DNA says otherwise. A groundbreaking 2008 study analyzing Y chromosome lineages across Spain found that approximately 20% of modern Spanish men carry markers associated with Sephardic Jewish ancestry. 20%. That's 4 times higher than North African DNA. In some regions, particularly in the old kingdoms of Leon and Castile, it reaches 30%. These aren't recent immigrants. The genetic signatures date to before the expulsion. What happened? The answer is the Conversos. Tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands, of Jews converted to Christianity rather than leave. They were called New Christians, and they were viewed with intense suspicion. Spain became obsessed with limpieza de sangre, purity of blood. To hold public office, join the clergy, or enter a university, you had to prove you had no Jewish or Moorish ancestry for multiple generations. Genealogical records were scrutinized. Families with the wrong surnames, like Cohen, Levi, or anything Arabic sounding, were excluded from society. But here's the irony that DNA reveals. The families most obsessed with proving their purity, the ones who paid genealogists to trace their lineage back to Visigothic nobility, were often the ones who had the most Jewish ancestry. Because the wealthiest conversos were the ones who could afford to buy titles, forge documents, and marry into old Christian families. Their descendants, the proudest members of the Spanish nobility, carried the very ancestry they were trying to hide. Spain spent 400 years hunting for secret Jews. The DNA shows they were living in palaces, signing laws and burning people at the stake for the very heritage they themselves carried. Let's address one more myth before we conclude. Many people believe Garcia is an Arabic name because it sounds similar to Arabic words and is common in Spain. It's not Arabic. Garcia is Basque. It comes from Garcia, which probably derives from hearts, meaning bear. It became common across Spain not because of Moorish influence, but because it was a royal name in the Kingdom of Navarre. It spread south during the Reconquista as Navarrese families joined the conquest. The idea that common Spanish surnames are Arabic is a persistent misconception. Lopez, Fernandez, Rodriguez, all are Germanic or Basque in origin, dating to the Visigothic period and earlier. But there is one part of Spain where North African DNA dominates, and that's the Canary Islands. The indigenous Guanches were Berbers who arrived from North Africa around 1000 BC, long before the Phoenicians, long before Rome, long before anyone knew those islands existed. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 15th century, they found a Stone Age culture, people who lived in caves, practiced mummification, and had no knowledge of shipbuilding. How they got to the islands 100 miles off the African coast remains a mystery. The Spanish conquest was brutal. The Guanche men were largely killed or enslaved, but the women survived. Mitochondrial DNA studies show that 55% of modern Canarians carry Guanche maternal lineages. The Berber mothers passed their genes forward while their culture, language, and religion were erased. Today, the Canary Islands are genetically more North African than any part of mainland Spain, yet they speak Spanish, practice Catholicism, and are legally European. So what is Spain? Spain is not a melting pot where everything blended smoothly. Spain is a genetic lasagna, distinct layers pressed together by violence, each one telling a story of survival and conquest. The bottom layer is the Western hunter-gatherers, dark-skinned and blue-eyed, almost entirely erased except in fragments of maternal DNA. Above them, the Neolithic farmers from Anatolia, who mixed peacefully for 2,000 years until the next layer arrived. Then came the steppe invaders, who wiped out the men and married the women, replacing every paternal lineage in just 400 years. Above that, the Celtic and Iberian split, two cultures occupying the same peninsula. Then the Roman veneer, changing language and law but not blood. The Visigothic garnish, barely noticeable. The Moorish layer, concentrated not where we expect but in the vertical stripes of the Reconquista. The hidden Jewish ancestry, erased from paper but preserved in chromosomes. And finally, the modern Spanish identity, built on the fiction of Mediterranean homogeneity, while DNA reveals a patchwork of conquest and survival. To be Spanish is to carry the DNA of the conqueror and the conquered in the same body, the steppe warrior and the farmer he displaced, the Roman soldier and the Celt he subjugated, the Moorish scholar and the Christian knight, the Jewish merchant and the inquisitor. Spain's history isn't written in books alone. It's written in blood, encoded in every cell, passed from parent to child across 7,000 years of migration, mixture, violence, and survival. The Spanish DNA paradox isn't that Spain is diverse. It's that Spain has spent centuries pretending it isn't. The vertical map, the hidden Jewish ancestry, the steppe replacement, all of it has been buried under a national mythology of Mediterranean unity. But DNA doesn't lie. It remembers everything. And in Spain, it remembers invasion after invasion, each one leaving a genetic scar that time cannot erase. If you found this journey through Spain's hidden genetic history fascinating, consider sharing this video with anyone curious about their own ancestral mysteries. Have you taken a DNA test and discovered unexpected results? Has your family history ever contradicted what the records claimed? Leave your story in the comments. Every one of us carries history in our genes, layered and complex. The only question is whether we're willing to look closely enough to see what those layers reveal about who we are and where we truly come from. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.